Instructomania presents the Geography of Medieval Japan. This video will detail the geographical features of medieval Japan, how geography shaped the lives of the Japanese before and during the Middle Ages, who lived in medieval Japan. The word geography, through a historian's lens, means the physical environment and how it may influence an economy and culture. Some examples may include scorching deserts that encourage nomads to move between water sources, islands where the surrounding ocean offered a food source, flooding rivers that created fertile farmland, and mountains where a resource like timber was used for building. Section 1. The Geographical Features of Medieval Japan. The islands of Japan curve in a crescent shape, with 4 large islands where Japanese culture grew. Actually, the islands together resemble a lowercase J shape. Hokkaido is to the north, making the dot at the top of the J. Moving south, Honshu is next and is the largest, while Kyushu is furthest to the south, and Shikoku is nestled to the southeast. A large mountain range runs down the center of Honshu, and the tallest peak, Mount Fuji, stands over 12,000 feet tall. The vast Pacific Ocean presses up against the western coasts of Japan's northern islands. Other seas surround Japan. The Sea of Okhotsk resides on the northeast shore of Hokkaido. The Philippian Sea stretches the southern coasts of Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Lastly, the East China Sea sits between this coastline and Kyushu. The closest countries to Japan sit opposite the Sea of Japan, sometimes called the East Sea. Russia, China, North Korea, and South Korea all played a major part in trade with Japan due to their proximity. China has lands nestled between Russian and the Koreas, but China's main area also had an enormous coast from which trade occurred across Asia. China would influence the development of the Japanese language, religion, art, and architecture. Test your knowledge. Let's play Spy the Squid. In this game, you will track the squid as it appears on a blank map of Japan. Once the music stops, you will use a map of Japan labeled with physical features to determine where the squid ends up. Other animals may appear on the map, so don't forget to keep your eyes on the squid. So where does the squid end up? Is it Mount Fuji, the island of Kyushu, or the Pacific Ocean? That's right, it is Mount Fuji. Let's try it again. Remember to keep your eyes on the squid. So, where does the squid end up? Is it the China Sea, the Sea of Okhotsk, or Russia? Yep, it is the Sea of Okhotsk. Let's try one last time. You got this! So, where does the squid end up? Is it the island of Hokkaido, the Sea of Japan, or North Korea? Nice job! It is the Sea of Japan. Here's some food for thought. Since Japan is surrounded by seas, seafood is the mainstay of the Japanese diet. Fugu is a deadly poisonous blowfish that the Japanese eat. However, Japanese law states that it can only be prepared by professional chefs who complete special training and licensing. How did geography shape the lives of the Japanese? Japan is comprised of more than 2,000 islands with hundreds of miles of water between it and neighboring countries. Early isolation due to land separation meant that a unique culture grew within its lands. Japan has mostly mountainous and volcanic terrain. Since only 20% of Japan's land is flat and usable, most of the early Japanese lived in small fishing villages on the coasts or farms on the few plains central to the larger islands. On Honshu, the Kanto, Nobi, and Osaka, plains are mostly located east of the mountains. Homes in these regions were made of wood and often built on stilts to allow cool air to move through the humid, hot climate. Eventually, cities on the coastal plains grew crops requiring lots of water, such as rice. However, in order to accommodate a growing population, the Japanese used terraces, carving out flat areas, such as large steppes, to enable farming on steep hills. The many seas' rich offerings greatly influenced their diet, incorporating fish, crustaceans, and seaweed. Hence, the Japanese fishing culture thrived. Fun fact, salmon sushi didn't appear in Japanese cuisine until the 1980s, when Norwegians marketed and sold it in Japan. Japanese government grew from clans or family groups, clashing for power, and eventually the major families gathered armies and defeated weaker clans. The first emperors of Japan were those of the Yamato clan, who believed they were born of the most powerful spirits of nature called kami. The religion of Japan also stayed very consistent during the country's early isolation. Traditional Japanese shrines and ceremonies honored kami, and the clan chiefs cared for his people's spiritual needs in a religion known as Shinto. Who lived in medieval Japan? Two ethnic groups lived in Japan in its earliest history. The Ainu of the North Islands had their own unique language and culture dissimilar to other Asian ones. Scholars believe they may have migrated to Japan from Russia or the northern portions of the Americas. The southern group who battled and eventually conquered the Ainu became the Japanese people. As mentioned in Section 3, clans battled and conquered each other, with the Yamatos becoming the first emperor. Although isolation allowed the Japanese to develop a rich culture, in the Middle Ages, trade across the globe increased. Japan began seeking out economic partners in Russia, North and South Korea, and China. With trade came other influences. Regent Prince Shotoku converted to Buddhism and welcomed foreign influences. In addition to Buddhism, the Japanese learned of government and social thoughts from Confucianism, styles of architecture, language, and creation of a Japanese script from the Chinese. To maintain central power, Shotoku created ranks of government workers, a constitution, and stripped clans of their power. Economic prosperity due to trade led to a divide in society. Wealthy nobles built a separate court in Heian, called Kyoto today. They focused on art and beauty rather than the needs of the people in the provinces, leading to rebellion. Clans arose and battled for survival. Lawlessness spread, and the people of Japan craved protection from chaos. Eventually, a warrior class developed in medieval Japan. This era extended for hundreds of years and was similar to European feudalism. In the feudal system, protection was offered in exchange for service. Shoguns were at the top, serving as the highest military officials. Lords called daimyo were given plots of land to manage. They hired samurai to protect the land. Peasants lived and worked on the protected land. In this era, the emperor was a figurehead, which meant he appeared to be in power, but the real power was in the hands of the shogun. Let's check out what it really looks like. As you can see, the physical environment of Japan greatly influenced the economy and culture of the people that lived there. Consider this. In what ways does the physical environment influence your life? Be prepared to support your answers with examples. From two teachers to all of you amazing teachers out there, we would like to thank you for choosing our resources to use in your classroom. Find more Instructomania teaching materials and lessons at our Instructomania Store and on our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for your support.